Hey everyone, in this video we'll be looking at how to integrate Clerk with your own local database state. So I posted this video a couple weeks ago on how to implement user authentication in NextJS 13 using Clerk. And I got a comment from Lex Semenenko about how we could add the Clerk middleware to sync Clerk users with local state. For example, save user info to database on sign up, etc. So that is why this video exists. So before we start, I do want to add a few points here that in most cases, if you're using Clerk, you wouldn't need to be doing this because Clerk stores all the authenticated users there itself. So let me just show a previous one I was using. It stores the users already. It has a name, it has a photo, email, social accounts, first name, last name, etc. You can have organizations, you can have your own metadata as well. So in most cases you wouldn't need to be doing this. But if you find a use case where you want to have it inside your own local database, um, follow along with this video and you will be fine. So okay, so let's start off with this. First of all, I'm gonna use my this video's code as my starting point, so you can follow along by going to this GitHub repository and cloning this inside your machine. So I'm gonna zoom in. Okay, I'll just move this over here. Right. So I'm gonna clone this really quick. I actually was making a video yesterday on this and I got a lot of interruptions, so I am redoing this. So this command already existed in my history. Anyway, so I have cloned this and now you can open this with VS Code if you're using that or any other code editor. I'll be using NeoVim. Which one is this again? Clerk auth local. Great. So we've started off well. To start off with, we need to set up the repository to the starting point again. Just add a .env file to the root, all right, and we need to add our credentials over here. So for that, I'll be going to my dashboard. I'll be adding a new uh, application over here. Let's say clerk local, clerk local. Email, we'll remove email address. We'll have Google and GitHub here, and we'll click on create application. That is the first starting point. Hover on Next.js and click on copy and click on and paste that inside a .env. Sorry for the bad throat. Anyways, so we had already done all this in the previous video. So click on that video over here, to start off with that if you haven't used Clerk before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this application really quick by using pnpm run dev. Okay, I need to install the dependencies first. Won't take a lot of time because pnpm is really fast. And that should be up and running now if I go to localhost 3000. Let's just wait for a couple of seconds and it should show up over here with the sign in button. Great. So we have the sign in work. Let's just try signing in now. And let's go to users over here just to show you the app. Click on sign in. Click on, well, continue with whichever one you want. I'm going to continue with Google and use my email address for authentication. And a second later, we should be redirected to the home page with this there, and let's refresh this page. And we should have the user here. Like I said, it has its own user ID. It has the photo, email address, phone numbers. If you want, you can add those to the authentication organization. You can have metadata. You can edit these metadatas by custom user metadata. You can go here and check this out later. Right. So this is there. Now, what we want to do in this application is we'll be using Prisma for our own database. I'll be using MySQL. You can use Postgres or whichever one you want. What we will do is once the user has signed up, the user's data will be inserted into our database as well. So to start off with, let's install Prisma, npm add Prisma and add Prisma slash client. And that's not visible. 1 second. Let me just, yeah, that should be visible now. I think I'm zoomed in way too much today. I think I can zoom out a little bit. And let's install that. Shouldn't take a long time again. The PNPM is really fast, but my network is a little slow today. Mhm. Okay, my network is a little slow. I'm working on my hotspot today because my Wi-Fi isn't working properly. Why is this taking so long? And my video is also lagging. Okay, it seems to me that that is done. It was taking some time for some reason. And pardon me if my video is lagging today. My network is a little slow and my video is coming from my ah video is coming from my Wi-Fi. Anyways, so to start off with, let's instantiate the Prisma in application, and what that will do is add a Prisma directory over here and have a schema. So let's open that, and I'm going to change this provider to MySQL. So let's do that and change our database URL here. If you're using PostgreSQL, just change it accordingly. But I'll use MySQL here. I'll have root. I don't have a password, so I'll remove this part. But if you have a password, just change the password over here, like that. All right. I don't have a password, so I'll use that, and I'll use 127.0.0.1 3306, and let's see, Clerk local DB. We don't need that, and let's move this part. All right. So we have the database URL, we have the Clerk secret key and the publishable key, which are being used inside the application before itself. So what we want to do now is, actually we don't need this right now. Let's change the schema over here. All right. So for this, what I was doing was I was using this example as a starting point. So if you go to this repository over here, this one, they have this example already there, but they're using the older version of Next.js. And it took me a long time to set up the route handlers instead of the API routes inside Next.js. So anyways, so I copied this from here. I went to widget. I went to DB, I think, Prisma and schema.prisma. Over here, I took this over here. So what they're basically doing is adding this user inside our database. The ID is our own custom ID inside our database. The external ID is the ID which is provided by Clerk, this ID over here. And the attributes is just all the attributes inside a JSON. So ideally what you would do is have, sorry, let me just copy this from some. So I have this created at and updated at as well. Ideally, what you would do is have stuff like name, string, um, phone, string, all this separately, and then populate this separately. But for this tutorial's sake, I will just have this attributes inside JSON and then update it there itself. But in a real world application, you wouldn't do this. Probably, I mean, you can do this, but it has some performance issues if you're storing JSON inside your database. So you'll probably have name string, phone string, etc., and use that. Now that that is done, I should probably move this over here. Okay. Yep. So let's do pnpm prisma db push. So that will change that. And let's also do pnpm prisma generate to generate the type definitions. Once that is done, what we can do is in this window, let's start off pnpm prisma studio. So that will open up localhost 5555 and have the user table over here with the external ID, the attributes as a JSON, a created at and an updated at. Great. So one step is done. Now what we want to do is set up the. Now I'll talk about let's talk about how does syncing database to Clerk work. So basically, if you go to this URL, I'll have this in the description below. How it works is basically every time something in the Clerk database changes, what happens is it you can add a webhook. So what a webhook does is when the user data has changed, Clerk from its end will hit the webhook API. Will call the webhook API using in this case a post request, but some webhooks do use get request. In this case they are using post request. So what happens is, let me just yeah so what happens is it they hit this webhook over here, and then inside the webhook, inside your API route handler, you will be adding, taking the user data from the request which is being sent by Clerk, and then adding the user inside your database, right? So yeah, this is the recommended procedure by which Clerk says you should be doing this. So we'll be using that. You can go. This is where I found the widget example, and this is. I'll just explain this in a bit. So basically what is happening is the user performs an action to your front end, which is the Next.js front end. The front end, what it does is it sends the authentication to Clerk, and then Clerk sends some reply back, correct? Now what it does is while Clerk is sending the reply back, they will also call the webhook URL, which is your backend. The webhook URL which sends the data to your backend. Right now, the backend in our case will be a Next.js application only. So the Next.js route handler in our case, Next.js 13. If you're using Next.js 12, you can just follow along with this. They have the pages API route, but I'll be using the route handler. And what it does is inside the backend, you can add the user to your database, right? So, okay. Let's start over with this. So what we will be doing is we'll be adding this route handler. So for this, what I'll do is inside the API, I have another directory named webhooks. Inside that, a directory named user and a file named route.ts. Alright. Now what that will do is have this over here. So if you just look at the bottom right over here, you have this inside your project directory, your app directory, API, webhooks, user, route.ts. Alright. I'm facing issue on where to place my camera. Let's just zoom out. That should be fine. Okay. So to start off with, we'll have this inside, we'll have a basic function, function handler. And what we'll do is we'll export const get is handler. We'll export const post as handler, and we'll export const put as handler. Well, in this case, I just checked this out before, and I know for a fact that they are sending a post request, but usually webhooks also send a get request sometimes. So if you don't want to take a risk, just add all these three like that. All right. Actually, I didn't try this before. I hope this works because I was doing something like this before. Export async function get and then adding everything over here. Sorry, post. But yeah, so we'll not do that over here. We'll have an asynchronous function handler. Right. Let's work with this now. Right. So what we want to do basically is, let me just show you how this works over here, right? So what they're doing is they are having this handler. They're taking the request which is being Okay, so basically what you need to understand over here is the fact that this API is being called by the webhook by Clerk. So they are sending the request, right? Now what they do is they will send some headers uh, through their fetch, through the fetch which they are doing, right? And we need to verify that that works or not. So for that, if we so they are using Swix under the hood to manage their webhook. So what we need to do is these are the headers which they will be sending from their side, and we need to verify the fact that these headers exist and they are valid and that a payload is being sent. So we need to use this webhook function instantiate. I don't know if it's a class or function. Yeah, it's a class now. Anyway, so we need to instantiate this class webhook from Swix, and we need to verify that this payload is fine, right? So what we need to do is if we look at Next.js over here, they're using the older version, and it took me a while to get this working with Next.js 13, but we'll go through it together. All right. What we want to do is we need to get the payload. Over here, they had a weird way of getting the payload, but the easier way now to do it inside the newer version of the route handlers is just to const payload. It's await. Well, we need the request, so we'll go just say request is request. Sorry, what did I do here? All right, and we do just await request.json. All right, they're using this weird thing because in the older version of Next.js 13, they were pre-changing the data a little bit, the request object. But here, this is basic the how it works using the web API, right? So you can directly call this over here. You can await request.json, and we'll be passing in json.stringify to this payload because this needs to change to a string. All right. Okay. So how do we get the headers now? For that, if you go to route handlers inside Next.js 13 and go to headers over here inside dynamic functions, it talks about how you can read the headers over here. So I'll be linking this inside the description as well. Let me add this to here so that I don't forget this later. Okay, so how do we get the headers? We get the headers by saying const headers list is headers. Now the thing is that this headers is actually a little different. This returns a dictionary, a Node.js dictionary. It says in under the hood on how that works, but this returns something very different. Let me just import this first of all, and this comes from next slash headers. So if I look at the definition for this and look at what read-only headers is, this is basically this class, right? So a type of that. So what that is doing is it has all. It is basically a class with a constructor and has all these functions inside this, and this is not returning a dictionary as we want. Now, what you could do basically is that take the keys and the values and make your dictionary on its own using the entries, maybe using a for loop. You can use this for each over here. But what I'll do is just to make this an easier job for us. Um, I'll show you how Swix was explaining this. So they are sending these three headers over here, right? Swix ID, Swix timestamp, and Swix signature. Now, the fact that these three exist and they are valid is a good enough fact that the headers is right for Swix, right? So what we want to do is just check these headers are being sent through, these three headers. So for that, what we'll do is make our own object over here and say, Swix ID headers list.get Swix ID, and the same thing we will be doing for uh, Swix timestamp and Swix signature. Alright, so we have these three over here. Now we need to check that this works. For that, we'll be instantiating the webhook class which we saw before. So for that, let's do const wh is equal to new webhook. So we need to install Swix. Let's do pnpm add Swix. Okay, we're done with that. Let's do new webhook. I should probably restart my LSP to get. Okay, let's do const wh is new webhook, which comes from Swix, and we need to send in the payload, and we need to send in the heads. Now, remember the fact that this needs to be stringified, so we'll do json.stringify over here. And we need to send in heads, which is not working over here for some reason. Let's see why. Swix ID. Oh, sorry. This one only takes the webhook secret. Now, this is where we need to go and add a webhook to our application over here. Just go to webhooks over here, and we need to get this up and running inside ng-rock. I'll tell you why. If I add this endpoint over here, http localhost 3000 API webhooks user, yeah, it was this, right? This won't work. URL must be a valid URL. That is because this needs to be hosted somewhere for this to work. Now, how do we test this inside a local application, right? For this, if we go to this URL from the Clerk documentation, it talks about exposing your webhooks locally using ng-rock. So what you want to do is basically go to ng-rock and then install ng-rock by clicking on download over here and get ng-rock up and running. I didn't use brew the last time I used this, so now you can use brew if you're using Mac. So what you want to do basically is start up this using ng-rock. So what that will do is use just ng-rock. In your case, I'm using this because my ng-rock binary is inside my root folder. I should move this over here again. And http 3000, which is the port on which the NextJS app is running. Just click enter. It will connect this, excuse me, and it will start this off over here, right? Need to zoom out a little bit and just check out this forwarding URL which is being sent by ng-rock over here. Just click on that and should I go back, zoom out a little bit again? Okay, so just copy this URL over here, alright? Let's copy this URL. What you want to do is go and paste that inside your dashboard. Now, and go to /API webhook user. Alright, now click on create. And now you're fine. Now this is where the webhook secret comes in. You need to click on the signing secret over here and click on this and then copy this. Alright, what I'm going to do now, let's zoom in again. Alright, go to your .env and add this over here. So I'm going to write webhook underscore secret and then paste this in here. Right, once that is done, I did something okay, that should be fine. Now we need to send this over here. So what we can do is write this over here like webhook secret is process.env.webhook underscore secret like that, else it is an empty string, because else this will give a TypeScript error. I'll just show you why we did that. If I send webhook secret over here, what did I do? Okay, webhook secret over here, this will basically give me an error. It says argument of type string undefined is not assignable to parameter. Oh my god, parameter string uint array. For that, what we want to do is we just say that this is probably not undefined by saying this is a string, right? So we say that this is probably not undefined by saying that that is a string, correct? So now that this WH is instantiated, we want an event to be set up. So by default, we'll just set this to null. So for this, let's just say it is event or null, and let's have a try catch block. Now we check if the verification process works properly or not. If it works properly, well and good. Else we'll end this API by saying something went wrong, correct? So we'll just say that event is, we can verify this over here. It has this verify function. The first parameter needs to be the payload and the second parameter needs to be the headers. For that, we'll send payload. Of course, we can't send payload just like that. We need to stringify this. And the second needs to be the heads. Now this is giving me an issue. Let's just say heads is typecast this as incoming HTTP headers, which is coming from HTTP, and this is webhook required headers, which is coming from Switch. Alright, this needs to be typecast as these two, and this should be fine. I'm getting an issue over here. Okay. Why is this not working? Event is, okay, let's just typecast this as event. Alright. And what we want to do over here is console. Now, if this works, we'll go to the next thing, else we'll return next response.json, an empty JSON, and let's send status of 400. We can console.error as error.message. This is typescript thing. If you're using JavaScript, this is console.error as error.message like that. But this won't work in normal TypeScript, not normal TypeScript. Yeah. Anyways, so we're returning this over here. Did I not type? Okay, this works. Now we have the EVT, which is the event, right? Now the event is basically the event of which the webhook is being called. So the event will be either it is a creation event of a user, an updation event of a user. You can actually see what all are there. Just go here, go down really quick, go to webhook's reference and see all these things are for which the events will be calling the webhook, right? You can see the payload structure which is being sent. Anyways, let's focus on this now. Now, if the verification process is correct, we'll move on after this, right? Correct? So let's just say, let's get the event type, or let's just say event type is evt dot type. Let's see, type is a string, right? Now we need to typecast this a little bit. So let's just say it is an event type like that, and let's write the type for this over here. So what will be the type of event type? We are just working with this for two things. You can add all these over here, but we'll just be checking for user creation and updation. All right. Let's just say event type is user.created or user.updated or star. All right. This is basically the type. This is either of these three strings. Right. So if I just look at what event type is now, that is event type. Now evt.type will give you the right thing. All right. So what we want to do now is, okay, I actually made a mistake over here. Now this event over here is not the normal JavaScript event which is being sent back. We need to typecast this as well. Let's say type event is the payload structure. Let's see what it is being sent back. It is sending data, the object and the type, right? Excuse me, sorry. Now the data is just the user object. For that, we'll just say data is, let me move this over here. I'm having to move that a lot today. This is a record, which is a TypeScript, what's it called, utility class. The key will be a string and the value will be either a string or a number. All right, we have that as a data. The object will be event in all cases, and the type will be event type. Right, so that is the event which is being sent back. So if I look at this now, This is basically event or null. Now what is event? Event is a data object type. Great. So we have this now, event.type is being sent back correctly, right? Now we check if event type is user.created or event type is user.updated. In that case only we will be running what is inside this web. So we know what is event.data, right? Now event.data for sure will have an ID over here. Alright, we take ID and we take all the other attributes by destructuring this like that. Alright, this is just a way of destructuring, saying take the ID as one variable and all the other attributes. So this will basically be something like attributes is all the other attributes. So last name is something, first name is something, all the other attributes will be over here, right? Now this is where we need to get the user and then insert the user inside the database. Before we do that, let's actually see if this is working till this point. Let's just console.log ID and let's console.log attributes. Let's see if this is working till this point. Alright. What we want to do now is just go to your localhost 3000. Let's actually log out really quick. And I'm going to remove this user from my users list inside Clerk. Just go there and click on this and click on delete user. So this will go under user created now. Click on sign in once that shows up. Alright, click on continue with Google maybe. Before I click on something, let me just go over here and show you this page. Click on the new user and let's just wait for a second or two and see what happens over here. Okay, so it is sending back all the attributes, which is great because now we have the external ID. The external ID is fine because they do send the ID back, which is coming to us over here somewhere. So this is the ID. This is all the attributes over here: email addresses, external accounts, which is the Google account in this case, first name, last name, object, password enabled. You can have public metadata, private metadata, all these things over here. Now, what we want to do is insert this inside our database. So all we need to do is have a query over here. Let's just say await Prisma. So we need to set up Prisma. I forgot to set up Prisma. What we want to do is inside the root, just have a lib folder and have say db.ts. Alright. I'm going to copy this, paste this from another repository because this is pretty standard. This is pretty standard Prisma setting up stuff. We import the Prisma client, we set it to a global object and we export it if Prisma exists. If it doesn't exist, we create a new Prisma client with logging set to either query error 1 in case of development or error in case of production. And if we are not in production, set it as the global object. Right? Great. So this works. Right. So what we want to do is we want to get Prisma over here. So we just say Prisma and that should import it from @/lib/d. So we await this. We await Prisma.user. Now remember the fact that this user is coming because we did pnpm Prisma generate at some point, which created the type definitions for us. So if I just hover over this, I will get that this user has all these functions and I can just say .absurd. So basically what absurd does is if the user already exists, then it will update the user, else it will create a user. How does it do that? We say absurd. We have a where query first of all, where we have the external ID, which is inside our user schema over here. We have the external ID. That is the ID which is being passed by event.data, which we logged out a second before, and this will be Okay, I'm in the wrong place. Sure. Let's move these two. Now it says extra that can't be string or number. We'll just say that this is a string. All right. In case the user already doesn't exist, we need to create the user. So we add the create parameters here. We'll have the external ID as string, and we'll have the attributes being passed in just like that. So the attributes will be passed in as an object. All right. And in case this also, in case the user already exists, we need to update it. So we just say update and we just update the attributes because we don't want to change the external ID, right? That will remain the same in most cases. All right. So that should actually be it. So if I go back into my application, let me log out. Remember the fact that I have Prisma Studio open somewhere. I can't find my Prisma Studio. Let's just open that again. We are inside the user. Let's just get this closer. We have the user here? We need to delete it if it already exists. Yep, let's delete this user over here. Delete the user. Click on this application. Click on sign in. Let's see what happens. Continue with Google. Let's sign in for the first time ever in this application as a new user and see what happens over here. All right. Let's click on dashboard first of all, and this should have the user inside Clerk. Second of all, let's go to Prisma Studio and click on this refresh button here, and we have the user. We have the external ID which is coming from a Clerk, and we have the attributes over here which has all these ideas: bank, gender, user, object, birthday, username, last name, created at, first name, blah blah blah. And we have the created at and updated at inside our own application and here as well. Now, ideally, like I said, you will have all these separately and then you will insert them separately as attributes. So, we're pretty much done actually. Yeah, we're actually done with this application. When the user is being created, it calls this webhook inside the route handler, and we update the user if it already exists inside the database. Else, we will create a new row. Just to show you, let's create log in with another user as well over here. Let's just log out. Click on sign in. I have GitHub login here. Actually, let's continue with Google and the second email. Let's see if this works. Localhost 3000. Go back. This is existing over here, and let's see if this works here. Click on refresh, and we have another user here. If you look at the excuse me, we have the last name, first name, all those things over here as well. We have the photo as well. We'll probably have the photo as well somewhere. It should be some, yeah, see the picture. This is basically the picture which is being done. Okay, that didn't copy. That did still not copy. Copy. And we have that photo. So all these are coming from Clerk, and this is a super nice way to have the user data inside your database as well and inside Clerk as well. Having said that, like I said before, you in most cases you wouldn't need to do this. Clerk already provides all the data which is used in most user tables. You can get these from the API itself. You can, well, it does give something called Clerk client, which comes from Clerk, and you can have all the users over here, and you can list all the users by saying, well, you have get user for by passing in a particular user ID. You can get a user list which returns the list of all the users. So in most cases you wouldn't need this, but in case you find a use case where you're in need of having to sync both of them, just follow along with this video and you should be well and good. So the code to this repository will be updated inside the local DB branch inside the same repository inside this Actually, let's just do that. Uh, Git status, get remote dash v. Let's add a new brand. Git checkout dash v. DB local. Git status. Now get branch here. Get add dot. Unless I have something I don't want to add, should be fine. Let's add these. Commit. Add local database sync, and let's push this into DB local. And you should be well and good. Just go to DB local branch inside this, and you should find out the code for database syncing inside Clerk. And that is it for this video. All the links which were being talked about in this video will be linked inside the description. And please do like, share, and subscribe. And for more such content, um, keep tuned. Stay in tune with the channel by clicking on the subscribe button and the bell icon. And see you in the next video. Goodbye.